Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing?
Am I working?
All right. All right, everybody in the back. All right, hello. And on this side. All right, well, we are here at the almost top of the hour and ready to get started. We are a wonderful panel entitled Workforce Wisdom, Expert Perspectives on Labor Challenges. So you've got a number of workforce wizards up here on the panel. My name is Chirag Shah. I'm with the American Hotel and Lodging Association. I am a lobbyist, so we spend a lot of our time meeting with government officials and tell them the story of the lodging industry to make sure that they do things that help our industry or, well, frankly, don't hurt our industry. And we're having some success, but always remains a challenge. But one of the things that we share with them, of course, is the story of workforce, because we are a service-first industry, and those challenges remain, whether starting back from 2019, pre-pandemic, all the way through the worst challenges that we had, and now coming out and hopefully doing even better than we were. We're still about 200,000 jobs shy of where we were in 2019. We continue to run into significant labor challenges regionally. Our survey data is showing that almost 70% of hotels across the country continue to face these challenges. A fourth are severe staffing challenges. But the interesting thing is that we're paying about $24 an hour nationwide. So we know that there are a number of nuances to this challenge, and so we've got a panel of experts here who are going to take this question from a variety of different perspectives. And why don't we head down the line here, and if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your role at your company, I think it'd be great for the audience to hear who we are.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jerry Williams-Fitz. I'm the Chief People Officer for Highgate Hotels, based out of Dallas. We have corporate offices in Dallas, Seattle, London, various different business units, approximately 20 different businesses under the Highgate umbrella. We were founded in 1988 by father and two sons. When I joined 16 plus years ago with the world of Highgate, we had 30 hotels, and we've grown over 550 hotels today, and internationally as well. We have approximately 482 corporate associates and almost 24,000 valued team members across the globe.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I am Charlie Carter. I am one of the partners and the Chief Development Officer for Carver. We are a task force company out of Atlanta. We have about 3,500 task force consultants, which are independent consultants, that go out on assignments for us, and we just pretty much bridge the gap. And we place our task force consultants on properties just during the interim. So, thanks for having me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bharat Patel. I'm a hotel owner-operator, but I'm also the chairman of the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, AOA, proudly serving 20,000 members who own over 30,000 hotels.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Benny. I am Vice President of Strategic Accounts with Actable. Actable is a software company. You might know Actable a little bit better by knowing what software solutions we have, which are a combination of different solutions. Profit Sort is one. Business intelligence solution. Hotel effectiveness is a labor management solution. We've got the Alice platform, which is back of house, housekeeping applications, guest services, guest delivery, concierge, as well as Transcendent, which is preventive maintenance and CapEx. So we do a combination of a lot of different technologies. Obviously, we have a lot of labor information, so it's why they asked me to be up here, because I have a little bit of labor data and some insights in there from a technology perspective. So glad to be here.
Appreciate it. And thanks for the background. Our goal is to have a conversation here, so I'll throw out a question for the panel here. We can talk through it a little bit, and certainly if anybody has any questions or thoughts from the audience, it looks like we've got a good intimate room here, so we can make this a little bit more dynamic. But Jerry, let's start with you. If you can tell us a little bit about the state of play on recruitment and retention, my favorite labor and workforce-related buzzwords. What are some of the innovative ways that you and Highgate are recruiting, you're retaining talent, compensation, perks, all the different things that have kind of evolved over the last couple of years?
Well, I think we'll all agree the war on talent is alive and well, right? The workforce has changed dramatically. When we thought we were coming back from the global pandemic, we as an organization, talk a little bit about insane madness to take over 320 hotels in the height of a global pandemic. It was a little bit crazy. But I will tell you that during this time, people have emerged to come back into the workforce really thinking quite differently. I think we'll all agree that it's really about, do you care about me? Relationships matter, and culture matters more so than ever. Personal connection matters. And while it mattered before, it's certainly much more prevalent now. People want to come back into the workforce knowing that there's a meaning for their reason for being there, that they have a seat at the table, that they have the ability to go ahead and be part of the change, that they have a part of the conversation and how the company is evolving and changing. And things that have surfaced more and more are, of course, those philanthropic efforts, and the workforce has changed dramatically where they're thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they're asking those questions more prevalently. And as they're coming back into the workforce, that work from home, right? We're all battling. Do people come back into the workforce? How do we work from home? Well, we're open 24 hours a day, and our hotels are open 24 hours a day. We need our people to be in our buildings, and same in our corporate offices. We really are working on our people first mentality, and that means really people first, inspiring excellence in everything we do. And certainly going ahead and making sure that each individual is embraced in their own unique way. It's about otherness and making sure that everyone feels like they have a sense of belonging.
Well, let me take a little bit from what you just said, and I'm curious, when you look at both of those words, recruitment and retention, which do you find the bigger challenge with, on the recruitment side or the retaining of the current employee side, and what are some of the best strategies you've had on either side?
One of the things that I think has been is a really great bragging point on the world of Highgate is, when I first joined the firm, we did not have a great people culture. I think that that's very important to say. And we decided to hold a very big mirror up to the company and look at our deficiencies, dissect those deficiencies. 72% of our full service hotels are union and labor intensive environments. And then we have a whole select service division, which is not. So it was very important to have a very honest conversation with our principals and one another, and mix an insane batch of Kool-Aid and keep mixing that insane batch of Kool-Aid and changing it day in and day out. You can't use the same mixture every single day. You've got to constantly be evolving and pivoting. We were not afraid to peek behind the corners of the organization and say, don't pay attention to the person behind the curtain. And it was a really hard process. Our first associate engagement survey in its traditional sense came out at a 72. Industry average was a 69. In my opinion, it was failing. We put in place 2 different surveys, a traditional associate 48-question survey, and then a 10-question pulse survey. Through the course of years, continuing to make the changes in the company, saying, because you told us, we made these changes. And what we did when we got that survey results, and we made sure we picked a company that gave us those survey results in 72 hours so we could make real-time change. Well, you know what? Those surveys are a snap in time. It is when the moon is too bright and the sun is too hot. In 2019, we threw away our traditional associate engagement survey. We launched our own and built our own TripAdvisor for our associates. Day in a life, every single hotel has their own QR code. They can go on every moment of the day, and that feedback goes directly to the leader. We can make real-time change. And from a bragging right perspective, our associate engagement score is a 4 out of 5. Our Glassdoor is certainly a 4.4 from a corporate perspective. We have 18% turnover in our corporate office and 38% turnover globally as a global organization. And that doesn't happen because of me. It happens because you've got to be listening. Yes. You have to be listening to what your people are saying to you. You've got to be hearing them.
I mean, those are some astonishing results from where you were to where you evolved over making some, it doesn't seem like significantly cost associated issues, but you were able to really drive up those just by listening to your staff. Charlie, let me ask you, from a perspective on the staffing side, it's a little unique model, and you're able to identify some gaps where we're not been able to have the number of employees. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing and kind of give us an unvarnished view of what the industry needs? Sure.
Well, from where we stand, basically we are a task force company. We basically bridge the gap. What we're hearing, we really don't. I mean, we're in a good position because our recruiting efforts is 90% or even higher come from the property level, from hotels. So when you hear that everyone's, when COVID came back, that so many people have left the industry. Well, there's some untruth to that. It's not that they left the industry, they left hotels, okay? These are individuals that still love the industry, but with COVID coming on and post-COVID, they felt the work-life balance was really important to them. So they wanted to basically take their skill set and their expertise and lend that to the industry in an interim role. When we talk with a lot of our consultants, that's one of our questions. Why did you come to Carver? You know, we deal with every discipline across the board, from your entry level, heart of the house, on up to your general manager level and everything in between. And some of what they mentioned to us and shared with us was culture and how the industry had evolved. I mean, the world evolved, but the industry remained the same. So they felt a lot of times that they weren't being heard from the property level. However, when they go out and they take that interim position in that position as whatever that discipline is, they're now, they're considered the expert, because all of our task force are seasoned individuals. So now when they go property level, everyone's wanting to ask them, okay, what are your ideas? What are you, how can we go about the inclusion of, because right now you have our Gen Zs, and then you still have our X generation and our baby boomers, and there's a collision there. And what we have to realize and try to bring together collectively, all of those mindsets, and because we have those seasoned individuals that are living longer, and then we have our Gen X that wants everything, everything is changing, and you have to be flexible in all of those wonderful roles. We've even had, because we do play front office, and one of the things that some of the younger, the Gen Zs would ask, well, who created this 7-3-3-11 11-7 shift? Why can't I come in at 8 and leave at 2? And one thing about them is they are so smart. I mean, they really are. And technology has come in, and we've embraced it, but we also have, me included, because I have 36 years in the industry, but it's some of those old ways that we're still harnessing that we really need to let go. We get an influx of task force consultants from every discipline, from the properties, coming to Carver for us to place them out on these individual assignments, so much so. And keep in mind, we call them all, because we said that they're a collection of task force companies. They're individual entrepreneurs, So we now even have embraced, because we've had such a huge collection, we've embraced now what we call our affiliate program, to where we have the individual mom and pop task force companies that's out there, and we basically act as their back of the house for them, and we feed them the leads. Now, one thing I will say, when putting a consultant out on a property, we just don't, you call in for a general manager, you tell us that, they need a certain PMS system, a certain brand, and all of that. But something we do ask our property level individuals, or a PMG that may call us, what is the culture like at your property? Because we just don't place a consultant there. We match that consultant, we share with that consultant, this is the culture that you're going into.
How do people answer that question? I'm curious. That seems like a broad swath across a variety of different, whether it's from property, regions, there's a whole variety of ways. What is a good answer to that question? From
the client, from the property level, or from the consultant? When
you're asking that question at the property level, what is the culture like? What is a good answer to that question?
Good answer, what I hear all the time is, well, Charlie, they have to know that they're coming into they're coming into an atmosphere or an environment that's pretty stretched and is strained, and you have short tempers, you have a lot going on because they're short staffed. So we need to understand that on our end. One thing that we ask our consultants is, what is your why? And that why should be one word. One word. My why is I'm an encourager. Okay? And then everything feeds off of that. So when we ask them what that why is, what is that one why? And if they say support, then we know where to plug them in. Because it's a small window. 6 to 12 weeks is all they have on that property. We're there to help the property. And what I mean by that is we place a consultant the property, and that's basically just to give Jerry's and the others time enough to interview that right candidate. You don't get it right with that one. You may have to interview 2, 3, 4, but just knowing that you have a seasoned individual that can step right in, that knows the system, that knows how to manage a team, that knows housekeeping, that knows food and beverage, all of these things that have the Forbes training, any and everything that they come with. Our job, our task force consultant job, is to go there, sit in that empty seat, just on the interim. They're not looking for a permanent position. They're there to lend their expertise because now they're being heard. Okay? Now we do have task to perm, where a lot of them, they develop a liking and they want to become a part of that family. They've embraced the culture of that particular property. You have 3 cultures. You don't have one. You have an individual culture, you have a team culture, and then there's a company culture. Okay? And then all 3 of them, they have one ultimate goal. Okay? But there are 3 different cultures, and we have to really view that way. We do that in my office as well.
Bharat, as an owner, tell us, how do you define culture? How do you answer that question?
What the culture?
No, I'm asking you,
Give me the easy question. Yeah. I like to get some questions from the audience at this point. Look, I think for our members, many of our members, it depends on the number of hotels they own, right? Mm-hmm. Food and beverage, full service is a little bit of a different animal, if I can say that. But for everyone, I think it breaks down to, do you guest, associates, ownership, right? Do you categorize them? Do you put them in a triangle? How do you put them? And coming to your culture question is for everyone too, is if to me, recruitment is easier than retention. So retention is going to come down to how much do you care about the associate, right? And how do you reflect that and show that in your company culture?
Right.
And sometimes it's the pre-flight meeting or the pre-shift meeting. Sometimes it's other things. When you hand off the shift to another shift person, how do you hand it off, right? Because sometimes, like to your point, somebody's waiting at 3 o'clock. Right. I want to be out of here. And that person did not call and tell me they're going to be 5 minutes late. And that small thing can snowball into so many other things, right? And so, but it's a reflection, like I said, it's got to be a culture where there's also open cube, open door policy, right?
Yes.
The person's got to know that they can reach the owner or the general manager immediately about their issue. And it may not be an issue, especially recently in the last decade, the last couple of years, is that should be escalated that quickly. But to retain the individual, you may have to do that. You may have to put new policies in place, right? Mm-hmm. Schedule does matter, more so than ever before. Mm-hmm. Family time does matter more so than ever before. Kind of like the post-9/11 environment. Mm-hmm. So look, culture matters the most. I mean, I can go to the former Bucks coach who used to say no biscuit, no Triscuit, and he won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. But he always talked about culture. Culture matters. And he talked about it in Arizona too. He was able to bring it back. But all that to say, and I love sports analogies, is whether it's the Chiefs or the Niners or anyone else, the culture of the organization has to be everywhere. Now, not everybody's going to buy into it. And the ones that don't, do you keep them or do you cut them?
Exactly.
Right? And you got to figure that out. You got to figure out that formula.
He leads with the Buccaneers, so we know he's from Tampa. Yeah. That's right, Paul. Let's stay on this theme of culture. And Charlie mentioned the use of technology and sort of changing the dynamic with the workforce. What are some of those changes that you've seen from the technological perspective in terms of whether it's recruitment, whether it's retention? Sort of how does that been leveraged to identify and address this problem?
Yeah. So I think when we're talking about more probably on the retention side, in my mind, when we're applying a technology solution to an organization, the the user of that technology needs to be able to use the technology, know how to use the technology, know how to apply it to their business model, and make sense of it. And I think where people are finding success is when the technology solution can help solve for culture, it can help solve for engagement, which we talked a little bit about, right? It can solve for, I think, Charlie, you even mentioned like flexibility a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Technology, when you start applying technology to an organization and you start solving for some of these very specific things that we need to be doing in our industry, suddenly all of a sudden the workforce, as they are embracing this technology, they start feeling like they're a part of it. They start feeling like they understand the mission. Jerry, you kind of talked about that. Like, everybody needs to be part of the mission. Like, what are we trying to accomplish? What's my role in it? And what is my impact in that role, in the organization? So technology can translate some of that for them. They can see their performance, how their performance is impacting against a KPI, right? That you are driving as an initiative, as an organization, because that's important to you. And they're now seeing that, ooh, I'm an employee, I'm actually impacting the organization's mission, and I'm also able to give feedback through the technology as part of my day job. It's not necessarily something new. I don't have to go log into something else. It's really easy for me to do, and it's just part of the culture all of a sudden. So technology can just become part of our day-to-day and enable some of the things that we just talked about, right? Just makes it easy.
Yeah.
Paul, let me stay with you for a second on this idea as well, and kind of what are the trend lines that you're seeing when you think of the idea of a job versus a career. Well, I think our industry is one that where the upward mobility, the sky is the limit. I mean, the folks at this conference are testaments to that. Folks on this panel, testaments to that in terms of starting off one place, but achieving the highest of heights in our industry. Are there trend lines where you're seeing that the retention is either getting there, or there's an opportunity to sort of distinguish between a job versus a career path in our industry?
Yeah, so when we look at the data, we look at the data over the last couple of years, with the exception of Jerry, I think, with Jerry's retention and what Jerry's done, which is amazing. As we look at the whole entire industry of the data that we have access to, we are actually seeing turnover trends that are really, really high. Probably some of the highest or most alarming turnover trends where we really need to pay attention to retention is that of the leadership of our hotels, believe it or not. General managers, assistant general managers, it's a very high turnover rate over the last 3 years, maybe 2 years. It's very high. Even last year, it was a 10% increase year over year in turnover on those positions. And then you even look at things like turnover in the first 30 days of employment for certain positions. It's really high, especially for housekeepers, front desk, F&B staff. I mean, it's really high. So just in the first 30 days, we're turning over a lot of people, which is really hard for an organization. Probably also partly why your leadership is turning over. It could be a reason, right? You're not able to keep staff and you're going through this churning motion all the time. And that's really hard wearing and tearing on an individual. So turnover, the numbers are showing that turnover is high. Another way to look at this, especially on the leadership side, is we saw inflation obviously go up really high, a cumulative of like 19% over 3 years. A lot of our wages also kept up with that inflation, or maybe even exceeded that inflation. However, when we look at something like GMs and AGMs, their wages did not keep up with inflation, unfortunately. Now, the Atlanta area, when we look at the Atlanta area, we've actually seen a bump in those specific positions. So I think the industry is starting to catch up. They're starting to figure out, ooh, hey, I see it. I need to react to that. I need to take care of those positions. I'm seeing some of these trends, which is really good. But the data, that's what the data is starting to show us, right? That I think people are starting to react really well. Maybe it's a little later than what we should have, but we're starting to react really well to that. And I think the technologies that we have out there are able to allow us to see some of those trends and enable us to react to some of those things, I think. You got a question, Chirag?
Yeah, we've got a question from the audience. If we can grab a mic from the audience, I'll also repeat it here, but go ahead.
No, I can also project.
We can hear you.
It's interesting what you're saying. A lot of this is my first time at this conference. It's been wildly incredible for me. But listening to the stats, they're talking about razor thin margins. Margins are getting lower. But also a trend going across the country right now is regulations for employee health care and time off, things like that. So how are you balancing that with your internals and also capitalizing on outsourced contingent labor as well to create that balance. It's almost like outsourced labor is getting less expensive than your internals.
Yeah, the Department of Labor is on the rise, right? The audits are out there, they're out in force. Labor unions on the rise. Right now, Southern California on strike. We also have Long Beach going under union negotiations, San Francisco going under union negotiation this year, New York going into union negotiations in 2026, Boston in union negotiations currently right now. Long Beach just instituted a minimum wage hike where valued housekeepers that are around $18 per hour now are auto bumped to $23 an hour, and they're going into their union negotiations. So that is all happening right now, and I would tell you that third-party labor, vetting third-party labor, making sure that they're honest citizens, and that's a really, really hard balance. We've had to take a very, very hard line on our third-party labor. But I would say people quit a boss. I think that is the best way to say it. People quit a boss. If I asked everyone in this room, can you remember a boss you absolutely dreaded working for? Was that a determinant of why you left? The answer is yes. If I ask you how many of you can name a hero that you would just charge up that mountain for, your hands would go down very, very quickly. People quit a boss. You want to work with people you believe have your best interest at heart. That's what makes you show up to work every day. And as a mother of a 25-year-old, I will tell you they're working non-traditionally now. They don't work in the way in which we worked. They don't come into the office the way that they work. There are so many entrepreneurial opportunities that are now available. Even some of our management members are even driving Uber to work, picking up their Uber driving, and then being at work all day, and then picking up a fare and Uber driving home. Everyone is working very, very differently. So I do think it is outside of competitive wages. You've got to always be looking at your benefits. You have to always be looking about, are you listening? Are you truly listening, and are you taking any action that's necessary? And when you put in those temporary resources, as if you outlined, those temporary resources, are they the right fit?
Right.
Are they the right fit for that particular asset? Utilizing some technology, going back on what Paul said, technology using human resources, using sources like Skill Survey, where you can go ahead and Skill Survey will do reference checks for you, where your candidates fill in the information and it goes directly, feeds it off, and then technology brings it back to you. We utilized, as I mentioned, our associate engagement platform. We challenged our engagement platform provider to create a TripAdvisor for us. We all go by TripAdvisor, right? For our guests, why not for our associates? And that is through Talent Keepers, and they developed that for us. Other items such as utilizing AppCast, a really amazing opportunity where you pool all your recruitment resources, your recruitment dollars, and they channel those resources toward the right recruitment efforts for the particular market you're in. All of those leveraging technologies along with Kronos, which also does AI back where you can do a mentor-mentee, and it auto AIs them to identify who that mentor-mentee can be. All of those things combined leverage you as a powerful leader in our industry. But I think at the end of the day, people have to love to come to work, and they have to feel like you care about them. It's as simple as that.
Well, on that note, I'm curious. You said people quit a boss. I mean, that is a powerful illustration, because I think that's right. I was trying to think of many of the jobs that I've had, and that's definitely right on for my lived experience. What kind of training do you do for that level of boss? And how do you make sure that they are providing the support to their staff?
Well, I think strong emotional intelligence is incredibly important. Looking at EQ, we utilize a tool in our hiring process. It isn't a test, it's a tool. We utilized predictive index, and what we did was we leveraged predictive index, and we had some of our peak performers on the leadership side participate, and some of our less performers participate. And we wanted to see how we could close the gap in our hiring misses. And what we identified was truly, truly shocking. There was one trait in Highgate that every single one of our top performers had, and every one that our lower performers did not have. We have low patience. Low patience. And what I mean by that is we are an ever-evolving company. We're an investment company. We're taking over hotels in lightning speed. So speed matters in our business. And so what it identified for us is we needed people who didn't like to get bogged down in the red tape. They wanted to move and win the Super Bowl every single day. They were wildly competitive. And it's like nails on a chalkboard if I have to have a meeting upon a meeting to have another meeting to go back to the first meeting. We make very aggressive decisions very, very quickly. By way of example, we're shifting from our current payroll provider to a really progressive new payroll provider. Huge, huge undertaking with over 30 different union contracts. And we just purchased Viceroy. And we have all these other business units all merging onto a new payroll platform. We've got to make sure we get it right. And we are leveraging a new system in order to do that. But I do think all of those things really go into play in how you're going to be most successful.
Well, Bart, let me segue along the lines of this question as well about costs in particular as it pertains to labor. There are a number of issues on the regulatory side that we're seeing coming down from the federal level, but certainly at a state and local level as well. What are some of the biggest issues that you see that are affecting the workforce today?
Yeah, look, let's look at it holistically. What you're saying is, for workforce, and our industry is one of the last industries to adopt technology, right? I think construction's below us, that's about it. So let's be clear on that. It's a people business. As the CEO earlier today spoke about both Delta and Marriott, it's a people business, and you got to hire the right people. I think right now, I've traveled the whole country, I think 46 states in the last 2 years, and out of everywhere I've been, there's really like two kind of dichotomies. There's one where like the career-minded, they want to move up. Like you said, they have maybe a lack of patience and they have grit. I think those are the two things that make them move up. But there are other people who want a second or a third career or a side hustle, like you were saying, and what they're looking for is continuity and working for a good boss, right? And so we got to look at it from that point too. So there's no magic like scientific management to run a great organization. I think we got to be able to also have that touch point feeliness about that individual. When it comes to labor, I prefer the South because there's less Department of Labor regulations than other places. Look, large cities have a large opportunity, but they also have a downside, right? And that goes to what you're saying about contracts and all that. We're figuring out conventions, and we're figuring out large cities. San Diego's a tough market to get to. They don't even want us. So what I'm going to say is they want a large convention like 20, 30,000 people, those kind of things. So we work with those large contract cities. But now room rates are not in the $200 range. They're going to be in the $300, $450 range, right? And so then how do you manage that as a convention goer or whatever else, right? Seattle, Portland has learned some lessons. So, the other day, who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody, and people from Dallas were visiting LA, elected officials, on trying to figure out the unhoused citizens issue. I'll be politically correct on that. Can you imagine people from Dallas going to LA? Do you know what the census is on LA homelessness? So all this to say, we all trying to learn from other models. There's no perfect model up there. There's no silver bullet. Otherwise, we probably would have tackled it by now because we have a lack of patience. I do too. The key thing is engagement, to your point about labor and everything else. I think when an elected official gets to know you, like you and trust you, they'll be there. I mean, even by raise of hands, who in this room has invited their mayor or their congressman to their hotel? Right? Just stop by. Right? And see what kind of fires you put out on a daily basis. If they see what you do once, right? And like I'll tell you, there are leaders like Beth Van Dyne in Dallas. We just mentioned Dallas, but there are other congressmen and women across the country that are willing to visit and find out what's going on. Dr. McCormick in Atlanta, here locally, great representative. And once he got to visit a hotel within a home member, he really knew our business. And so that's what I would do for all of you. You got to engage. The other day, somebody was talking about, I live in the city and the mayor's like this and this. Did you ever invite them to your property? Because they don't know your business. And the other piece I'd say, I would elect someone who's signed both sides of the paycheck, if you know what I mean, right? So,
Charlie, let me ask you a similar question. Are there any regulatory or administrative issues that affect your business model, perhaps uniquely relative to some of the others?
The only thing is right now I know the AHLA put out something regarding, I know we are dealing with a lot of property management groups. I think Highgate is one of them, where they are not accepting 1099, consultants to come on. It's, it's basically we have to have them on as our employee in order to put them out. And then we have other PMGs that are willing to bring them on as their temporary employee, and then we just get a fee, a fee base. But other than that, there are still ways of going around. And when we looked at the new law that's about to come out, we checked off. At one time it was 3 boxes. All they did was add boxes. Now it's 6 boxes that you have to check off in order to be approved to continue doing what we do. Now it's 6 boxes, and guess what? We check all 6 boxes off. That's what we have great attorneys for. So, but I think going back to the culture and the retention of your employees and your managers is, in the hotel, we know this. You have your features and you have your benefits. So when you are speaking to one of a candidate that is one looking to be hired, at your property, listen for their, what's important to them. Someone may say, well, I know I can't do this shift because I have to pick my child up at 5 o'clock. You weigh in on that and you say, okay. And so you give a benefit as to, what our property offers. We offer flex scheduling. Okay, so of course now their ears are perked up because it's like, oh wow, they're willing to work with me. I don't have to shy away from, that having to rush out and leave at 5 to pick my child up, or it could be anything. But listen to whatever that feature is and provide that benefit, because all hotels, what is the competitor doing, that you're not doing? Everyone is offering pretty much the same thing. And then it's, are you hearing them? We sit in a room, even at conferences, we say, we're doing this, or my property, our team is doing that. But have you ever really just gotten in a room with all the employees, and I'm sure some of you have, and asked what it is they are looking for? Things are evolved, things are different. It used to be work and it was home. Now you have to see how you can merge the two, and make it happen. That's how you get retention. And everyone is different. It could be different for this person or for that person. I know with consultants, with our task force consultants, a lot of them have come to us because of the pay, because at some of the properties, the health benefits have been, decreased, so they don't have them or whatever, and they're able now to provide those health benefits by being paid a little more as a contractor, So it's really just tuning in and listening to whatever that, that candidate or employee is really saying, and don't give, a dumb ear to it or mute, because they will leave, because right now it just evolved after the pandemic. It really opened up, and we have to evolve and try to see what we can do, in the industry with helping.
If I can add to that really quickly, one of the questions that I think is super important for all of you to put in your interview process, it's very simplistic. Who are you when you're not working? Great. They tell you everything.
See, that's great.
They tell you about their family. They tell you about their life. They tell you about their pets. They tell you everything. And then the final piece of that interview is, thank you for interviewing us. Thanks for interviewing us as a company. They have choices now.
Yes.
A lot of choices. And they want to hear that you're appreciative of their time, that we're honored that they're wanting to pick us. That is a key component we've added into every one of our interview processes, and it really does help flip that script a little bit, to your point.
Yes.
This is a relationship business.
Absolutely.
And that goes with our employees as well.
You were
It's
just
not
with
just the
us.
guests.
Yeah,
I know.
you
It
were
was
at our
wonderful,
conference.
and I had a great time. I felt like I was part of the group and part of the. And I'm your vendor, right? But I felt like I was part of the family. It was great, and I think that's how we need to treat each other all the way around.
Yeah. Technology is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but we are in the people business.
Yes.
Well, to that
We
to that
are
point,
in the people
Paul,
business.
if we're on a panel 5 years from now, we're all sitting here again. What does the labor force look like? And I guess what are some of the key changes that you will anticipate over that period of time?
I'm
just pulling out
got
the
a
phone.
calendar myself real quick here.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So what does the workforce look like?
And
5 years
how
from
has
now,
technology shaped it?
And how does technology help shape that? That's a great question. It's hard to look out that far, but here's what I think. I think what technology is going to do to help shape. We are in a people business, and here we are. I'm a technology company. What I think needs to happen, and especially when we're looking for technology solutions, I think the right kind of technology solutions are the kind of technology solutions that don't just create another thing to do. Technology solutions that are really good for the workforce are technology solutions that create a better way of doing things.
Yes.
So when we think about technology that's going to make a difference for the workforce, it's that type of technology that's going to be able to take information, because we talk a little bit about AI, and what AI is doing for us already is it's helping to compute all of this data for us so that we have better information in front of us, right? So as we move forward from a workforce perspective, what you're going to find is technology solutions that are able to take advantage of data, deliver that information to the right person at the right time, in the right place, to be able to make a decision that has a bigger impact on guest experience that ultimately impacts the bottom line in a better way. They're going to be able to do more with less. So as we move forward with technology, and as you look for technology to apply to your organization, that's the kind of technology that you need to apply, that kind of forward thinking, because that is where we're going, and we are going to make things better, but we're not going to replace people. We're not going to remove the human experience by having that personal touch. We're going to enhance that through technology. And I think we kind of talked about that already a little bit. Like, that's where things are going. I think it's going to get, we're going to get better at it. I think there's going to be more information available to us. It's going to be more readily available. It already is. But that's going to actually apply directly to the people the way the rubber hits the road, right? Right down to the guest in real time with what's going on. That's where the change is going to happen. I think technology is going to continue to enable us to do that.
It's a great way to bookend. I think we've got basically a minute or so. Maybe we throw it out to the audience, see if anybody has any questions for this wonderful and dynamic panel. Go ahead, Peggy. Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot in the papers about political and business leaders and investors saying abolish EEI, abolish ESG. When you get down to the property level, what are the employees thinking about it? Do they value it?
The question, just for I guess apparently there's an audience outside of this room. There's been some discussion about abolishing DEI in the media. What do folks at the property level have to think about it? Want to run down the line here in a sentence or two?
I would just say that I think it does matter regardless. I think you want to hire the very best, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a question that people are asking when they're interviewing. You know, what is your cultural mix? What does your footprint look like from a sustainability perspective? What are you doing to make the world a better place? You know, in our organization, we have a huge presence in Hawaii, right? So we unfortunately were impacted deeply by the fires in Maui. How do we give back to our communities? How did we pour into the world, right? All of our success means nothing unless we're doing a better job of making the world a better place. I haven't lived in Atlanta. We have for 16 years. I walked in this hotel, walked into 17 different people who I used to work with. This is a much smaller industry and relationships matter, and I think people do care. They genuinely do care, but they want to know that you care as much as they care.
Yeah.
Charlie?
Well said. You know, empathy is huge. Empathy is huge. And I must say that the industry as a whole now, across the eons of years that we've been around, it's gotten better where any nationality, any race can walk into a hotel and they see someone who looks like them. That's important, okay? But it's to Jerry's, I mean, she just nailed it with everything she said. But I think that coupled with empathy. Empathy is huge in our industry. Yeah.
Bart, Paul, any thoughts?
Yeah, look, the front desk or the hotel should reflect the community. But look, I think it's equal opportunity. We give everyone equal opportunity. Look, there are people that I thought would never work out with temporary holdover. They end up working for 10, 12 years. And there are other people I thought definitely somebody's going to stick around for a few years, and they didn't, right? But I think in our industry, there's enough of a turnover that we work through all of these things, right? So it matters, but it's not my central thinking day in, day out, right? If you're the DEI officer of that company, well then, yeah, that's probably one of the things you have to worry about. But I don't think we have that much to worry about our industry. Look at the audience right now we have here. So I think it's not something we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Maybe some other industries do.
It's
We're
about
all
belonging,
unique
right?
and different. Charlie said it before, like that's important, and people need to feel like they're still important and that we recognize who they are, what they're about. We embrace that difference and we accept it, and that just becomes part of our culture, part of our industry, right? And I think that's important. So I think people at that level find it very, very important.
Absolutely, well said. Well, thank you very much to the panel. I think we're out of time, but it was a great insight, great discussion. Thank you all.